Let's see. I think this is now live on Facebook. I always have to check a little bit because we're going live from Zoom now, y'all. So I should probably pull up Facebook. Would have been good if I had done that beforehand just to make sure, but it's saying we're now live on Facebook. So I'll pull up my group just to make sure while y'all are joining on that this is working. But I think it is. We did this last week and it seemed to work pretty well. And we were able then to use it to send y'all an email. Yep, there I am. So funny to see yourself in the replay. But hello, happy Tuesday. I should actually pull this up so I can see your comments. How are you all doing? I'm excited to dive into today's topic with you all and jam on the truth about my client's results, I should say. So this is a topic that let me introduce it first and preface it because I think a little context around this is important. I'm just checking one more thing, y'all. I'm not good at multitasking. Okay, yeah, we are on there. Okay, I can also, it's so funny. I can see it's like a delayed lag, y'all. For any of you who go live, it's a little bit of a trippy thing there. But I promise as we do this over the next few weeks, and I do this from Zoom, we won't have to reference it every single time. So today's topic, the truth about my clients' results. So I think just to kind of preface this and what I put, if you are on my email list and you saw the emails I sent about this ahead of time, something I think is very true that you and I can agree on in business is that business results, the results you generate for clients, customers through your services, through your products are important. I think that's something we are all concerned about as business owners, especially if we're coming from a place of integrity. I also think from a marketing perspective, we can all agree, speaking to those results, like just such an important piece of the sales marketing process, such an important piece of what we're doing as service providers. And even if you're selling a product, I think that is sort of the name of the game in business. Let me know if that feels true to you. Okay. Oh, Heather, hi, Kim, you're live. Yes, the delay is annoying. Hey, Heather, nice to see you. Nice to have you on. The delay is it's just so strange. By next week, I won't reference it anymore, y'all. I promise, and we'll just dive right into the topic. But results, going back to that, they're important. I think it's one of those things that we can all agree this is an important part of business. And because results and the results your people get from your product or service, because this is such an important part of business, this is just something that is fact in business. What I find, and this is something I find comes up for my clients so often, and we're having conversations around in different ways, is because of this, a lot of pressure can get baked into those results that your people are getting. Again, whether you're a service provider, a done-for-you service provider, a coach like me, a therapist, or someone like a designer, or if you sell more of a product or a course, no matter what, this is going to be important. And I just see how much pressure gets lumped into this and how much of the imposter syndrome can come up. And there's just a lot that can get wrapped around the results piece on the service provider side. No shame in this game if that's something you have ever experienced. If so, feel free to say hey, I've been there, this is me. We're gonna talk about and unpack all the things because this is something I feel pretty strongly about and I think is really an important conversation for us to be having more of. So kind of just preface a little bit more before we dive into really my thought process around this. I also really believe, and we'll have to link to it. We did a live on pressure at some point in this group last year. So I will see if I can find that, if my team can find it and link below. But something I also know to be true, I made the joke in the copy around this. Unless you're a piece of coal and we're making a diamond, pressure really doesn't serve any of us. I think there's such a fallacy out there that this idea that more pressure equals better results, and something I have seen to be true in my own business, that we just closed out a 31K cash month from one-on-one alone. Let me tell you, that was not because I applied more pressure. I had to release pressure over and over again. And something that I see through my clients all the time, more pressure just means cracks. It just means breakage. It just means people getting in their own way. More pressure does not yield better results for you as a service provider, nor does it yield better results for your clients. You all let me know if that feels true for you. Hey, Jessica, nice to have you. If that feels true for you, if you feel no, actually pressure really helps me out, I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on the pressure piece there. So because of this, I really think it's important for us to take a look at then what's going on with client results. And I want to share the way I think about client results, my clients' results, the way I think about my role in those, as well as what I coach my clients around themselves for their clients' results. A lot of the work I do with clients is helping them specifically to build, grow, and scale a profitable business on their terms, but I'm also supporting them with their clients and what's coming up around those client interactions and relationships all the time, because that's just part of the business game, right? Business is all relationships, and all our relationships with potential and existing clients. And so I want to share and break down a little bit of what I share with them. And then I also want to break down how this applies to my pricing structure. So this year, many of you know, I think I shared this at the beginning of this year. Yeah, I shared this at the beginning of this year, so not too long ago. I changed my pricing structure and focus only on one-on-one, either intensives or 6-month programs in my business. And I added a revenue share pricing model in my business to scale because I've been at capacity for so long. And so I really want to share how this concept plays into that pricing structure as well, because I think it can be a little confusing. And I think this is just a helpful thing. Even if you're not using that pricing structure, I think it's a helpful thing to understand and have conversation around, and just to think about for all of us in the business space. All right, just toggling back and forth to see comments and questions, but I don't see any. So, okay, let's just kind of like loop into first in terms of my clients' results and how I think about them, and how I want to invite you to start thinking about the results your people are having. So I think a great way to enter into this, I don't know if any of you know Brooke Castillo's work. She has the Life Coach podcast. I think she's brilliant. She has a multi-million, billion-dollar business. She knows what the heck she's doing. I also think she's a very smart coach and a smart marketer. And she, gosh, on one of her podcasts, but she really has this concept and idea that it's really important. And again, I'll explain how this has to do, even if you're not a coach, because this really applies to any business owner, particularly my service providers. But she has this concept that she talks about, where she talks really about not making a client's results mean anything about you, and really holding the space for your client. And that is something I believe to be so important and true for us as service providers. And so the belief I take on, and we'll unpack this a little bit and thinking behind it, why it's so important and how this affects your clients and the results they get. I really believe that my clients' results are not mine. I'm not responsible for them. I also don't have anything to do with them. Now, I do believe that I fully take responsibility for holding space around the results they want to create, holding space for their magic to come out, holding space for the possibility so they can run at those results and make them happen, and also holding space for all the human messiness and the discomfort and the muck that comes out, holding a safe space for my clients to dump that out so they can messily run at, be human, run at those results they want to create and be able to create them. But when my clients, because my clients create some epic results, y'all. I've had clients, scale to $1 million. I've also helped many, many clients, build their business from the foundation and book their first paying clients ever, their first 1K, 5K months, and then everywhere in between, getting fully booked, booking out wait lists, 10K months, 20K months, 16K months, 13K months. We've had a lot of really big income months this last month for my clients, people replacing their corporate salary. Those are all client results I am very proud of. And I absolutely believe the container facilitates, the coaching container facilitates the space for my clients to create those results. But I also remove the pressure and ownership around those results. Meaning when my client scales to $1 million, that is not my result. Just like when a client is in the middle of, a messy moment and needing to go through that, that's also not my result. And the reason I think this is so important, and I want to have a conversation about this transparently, because I've heard my coach talk about this. I've heard very few people talk about this. I think there's a lot of the opposite in the online space, where it is ownership for results, but only ownership for the positive results. And it's a little backwards, because when we only take ownership for the positive results, you got to take ownership for the so-called negative results as well. But either way, it misses the point, and it makes it all about you as the service provider. It makes it all about your ego, what you need to prove. It really removes the client experience from the table. And it puts a fuck ton of pressure on the client to get results, to feed your ego and to feed your self-esteem and to make you feel good enough so that you can prove to other people, all the noise that can come up around that. And I'm not calling anyone out. These are all very normal human things and normal human things that I help my clients unpack all the time, because like we're all humans having a human experience while we're running our business, serving other humans having a human experience. So normal. But I think it's something we want to start looking at and starting to separate out and starting to understand the difference between holding space and holding a container. I always think when you think of holding space, it's a very open, like I can just hold without taking on and carrying and holding something for a client. And again, this isn't just for my coaches and therapists. If you are a designer, and I have quite a few clients who are designers and in the more creative space, there's a huge difference in terms of holding, so not carrying, but holding the space for your client to share their vision and what they want you to design, and really allowing that space for the magic of, what do they want in terms of a result with their design, and being able to be in that creative process with them, versus taking on and carrying the weight of the result from the design before you've even had a chance to make it. Can you see how one is a really beautiful place where it's like you absolutely care about that result and the outcome? You absolutely care about your client, but it's more about facilitating the container and space for the magic to be created for that result on the opposite side and what they do with your service and product, right? So if you're holding that space in the creative process, we'll use the designer example, then you have the pressure removed. There isn't all this pressure on you or client to create whatever magic you create. And then it's still up to the client. You're still holding them to that higher standard for whatever they do with that design itself, instead of carrying everything, which puts a lot of pressure and breaks down the creative process for the designer. And we could say the same, really, I think, in almost any industry: virtual assistant, OBM, if you're in the done for you space, if you're a copywriter. I think most of you in this group are service providers. I have, if you're a lawyer, if you're a CPA, anyone who's providing services, I think we can see what that's like in terms of when you're carrying and taking on those results is yours, versus I care so much about these, but I'm going to hold the space. I'm going to create the container. If you're a lawyer, right? I'm not going to be so latched onto the result for this client. Instead, I'm going to create the space for the work, for the best outcome possible for this client. Let me know if this is making sense for you all. Heather says, which is a really cool model. Thank you very much. I'm kind of obsessed with it, so I'm sure y'all will hear me talk more about it. And feel free if any of y'all have questions about this in particular as well. So again, I think this is a little, like, it can sound a little counterintuitive, because I think the mindset around this, when we think about client results, I think this can almost seem like, but wait, results are important. The results your people get in, from your services, from your product, that's important. That's what we speak to in marketing. Like, that's kind of the name of the game in the business. And we're saying this is important. And then we're also saying essentially detach from clients' results in the working together process. And I think it can sound a little bit like, wait, what? And I really want to offer that both can be true at the same time. And that when you allow for both to be true at the same time, and you can create that detachment, and this is true for your own results as well, but create that detachment around your clients needing to get a result, needing to hit a result, so that you can feel good about yourself, so that you can prove something, so that you can make money, so that you can go out there and talk about it. When you can remove that pressure and detach from seeing that result as really having anything to do with you outside of, creating the container space for it, the irony is that creates, again, whatever service you provide, that creates such a different container that gives someone the space to get the best results possible. And so it's kind of this weird mindfuck, because it's sort of like, by taking this mindset and approach, your clients will actually have the space to get better results. Does that make sense? So, many ways you are helping facilitate those results, but I think it's then not taking that ownership for them either way, which is so important, because it helps you to detach from and unhook from those results, and to detach from the pressure that can get applied to the client-customer, service provider relationship. I'm going to give some examples outside of business here, because I think sometimes that can be a little more helpful. Heather says, Thank you, Heather, for the comments here. And sorry, I'll have to toggle like back and forth between Zoom and Facebook so I can see the comments here. But Heather says, this is important. I recently had a client who stepped away, and I know it's about them and not me. I definitely went through the what else could I have done. I love that you share this because I think it's such a helpful frame and just such a helpful perspective for everyone to hear that, if they've gone through this, I'm sure all of us have gone through this at some point, that it's generally not about you. I think there is, and Heather, just to give you credit here too, I think this is one of those things too, where as a service provider, as a business owner, I always want to be available for, if someone needs to bring something to the table, or if they don't feel like they're having their needs met, or they're not being served in the way they expected, to have those conversations and to be able to find out, is there a way it can be showing up differently, for example, or is there something here that's I don't want to say on me, but something just to have a conversation around in terms of how I can serve them in a way that meets their needs in the way they want to be served, that also is, within my boundaries and my integrity. And so I think there can be an opportunity for that for all of us in business as we grow. And I think and I think this is what you're saying, the what else could I have done part, and I think that's for all of you who are coming from a heart center place and come from a place of integrity. I think that it's so easy then to also like beat up on yourself and put that pressure on yourself. And I think this is where really taking that mindset and perspective of, and like whatever someone's bringing to the table is generally about them. And and those results are not your responsibility, I say you, this is me, this is all of us, our responsibility of service providers. And something I always keep checking back in with is to literally deliver the service we've promised. In coaching, it's creating that container and holding the space and coaching a client to be able to have the tools, the resources, the mindset, the messy, safe container to be able to run at creating those business results they want. For someone else, it might be, delivering the service of creating that design, right? That's the responsibility that we all have as service providers. And then I think the place where we want to remove the responsibility is, and then what someone does with what we deliver and the results they got on the flip side of that. Because I know everyone here, you're all in integrity, you're all great at what you do. That's not a question. Like no one out here is like a snake's oil salesperson who's like promising things that they can't deliver on, or like, hey, I'm going to help you do this thing and then not do it. Like that's no one in this group. This is a group of heart-centered entrepreneurs. If anything, you're over delivering and under promising and selling yourself short if you're anything like my clients. So that's just not the conversation we have to have here. But I think what we're talking about, and Heather, hopefully let me know if this makes sense, is when you've delivered on what your service is, what your product is, then releasing, then detaching from what someone does with what you deliver. I'm going to give a parenting example that if any of my clients are live, you've probably heard me give this example so many times. But Heather, let me know if that makes sense, because that part, when we're then, actually, I'll give another example before the parenting example. I think about this with, so my dad was a race car driving coach, and he coached clients who professionally drove, and some of them won the Indy 500 and some really successful celebrity drivers, and some of them were hobbyist drivers and had fun, and some drivers would drive with him and would literally crash their car. So same coach, same delivery of service. My dad was prolific. He coached for, it was like 45 years. He had his career. So epic coach, incredible coaching, incredible results for clients. And those results were not his to hold. So when a client won the Indy 500, at the end of the day, that was what that client did with the coaching he gave them. Just like when a client crashed their car, that was what a different client did with the same exact coaching, and crash their car. And it probably would have made my dad's life miserable if every result he took on as his own, instead of seeing that as not being his job as being there to deliver the service of coaching and to facilitate and hold the space for any client to be wherever they're at and to run at the result they personally want. And again, even if you're not a coach, this isn't just about coaching. Coaching is my lens. It is my world. It's what I like, eat, breathe, sleep. So it's easier for me to chat here about coaching. But again, we can go to an OBM as an example. My OBM She can have the same skill set and deliver the same service to different businesses. And she can really care about the results, and she can, show up and deliver her best and really create the support and resources and tools for all of us to be able to run at our business to get the results we all personally want. It's not her job to facilitate those results. It's not her job with like what I do with her support. That's my job. And I think it then just comes back to like, how do we allow for ourselves to take personal responsibility and our clients to take personal responsibility? I sometimes think, and I hate labels, but I sometimes think otherwise we get into almost a bit of a codependent dance where it's like, it's my job to go in here and do things for people. It's my job to go in here and fix things for people. Even if you're a done for you service provider, right? Your job is not to go in and fix the result and like go off. What is one of my friend Lori Ann, who we've said this together in a live. She's like, you can't outsource your push-ups. I've probably talked about this in different ways before because I'm having a memory of talking about this in this group and talking about this in a very different way. So same thing here. You can't outsource your push-ups, just like you can't hold responsibility for client results. And the sooner you let go of that responsibility and detach, like the mind fuck of it all. And the crazy thing is, that's what allows clients the freedom and space to have those epic results. The reason, I'll use my dad as the example here, the reason he could have clients, win the Indy 500 and do so well, or crash a car, quite honestly, and then get back in a car and drive again at hundreds of miles per hour instead of deciding this isn't for them and they need to quit and this is like the scariest thing ever. The reason both could happen is because he wasn't so wrapped around what it meant about him as a coach, what it meant about him and his business when a client had either one of those results. He could celebrate, and hold the space for the result of the Indy 500, but he could also hold the space for it's totally okay that you crash your car. I'm so glad you're safe. And I think we can take that same concept and put it into any one of your businesses and see how when you can have that essentially detachment, it gives the client so much more freedom and safety to actually create the results they want, to take whatever your service or your product is and actually utilize it for their own results. Courtney says, this is so, oh wait, I'm missing comments here. Courtney says, hi, Kim, jumping on late. Hi, I love you. Heather says, I know they still love me. And so, but yes, I did deliver it, but they just didn't implement and reach out for help. So that is exact. You can't outsource their push-ups, right? You can't, if you hire a fitness instructor or trainer, they can be the best in the entire world and you can pay them $1 million. And if you show up to the fitness training, personal training with them, and you refuse to do your push-ups and you refuse to do any of their workouts, whose responsibility is that? Whose fitness results are those? And again, it's not to say we don't have, I think we have a huge responsibility as service providers to deliver our service and to be in integrity. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like, that is our work. And I want to talk about that in a moment. And but I think it's so important here to detach from that other side, what you're saying here, you did deliver, but they didn't implement, because that's when it's so easy as the business owner to spin off into a million different directions. I support so many of my clients around the mindset gremlins that come up around this and the stories that can come up around this. So that's its own thing, right? Like as soon as you're wrapped around, like now this means something about me, I should have gotten them those results, right? Like that's when we get into that like funny dance with people. And also when we start getting in our own way and shitting on ourselves. It also then puts a ton of pressure in the client container, which I'm going to give an example for, but I just want to read Courtney's comment here. Courtney says, this is so timely as I began dipping my toe into coaching, letting go of what they do with the tools I give them. It's Courtney, this is like the perfect segue. So, and I love that you're dipping your toe into coaching. And it's exactly this. How can you let go of the results? So I'm a bonus mom. I'm a stepmom. I know many of you here are moms or dads. I know we have dads in this group as well. And I'm sure I've used this example with y'all for other things before. I definitely do with my clients, but I always think about what we're talking about here in terms of caring about what you're delivering, taking full responsibility for your work, showing up fully to create a safe container to be able to hold your clients so they can run in with all their mess And so that you can really care about their results, facilitate the container for their magic to come out so they can go get their own results. I think of this as what it is like to be a parent that facilitates kids who are resilient and responsible and go out and create things in their life versus helicopter parents. No, I'm not a parenting expert. I'm not calling anyone out who feels like they're a helicopter parent, but I'll just explain the difference here and how this applies. Many of you know I spent a decade in LA doing the acting thing, and sometimes when you're on set, you would have theater moms there, and there was always a difference between the types of theater moms. And what I noticed, and again, this is not judgment, I get where this comes from. This is just so we have an example. There were theater moms who were really supportive and gave the tools, gave the resources, coached their kids, essentially helped their kids so that their kids could show up and then go do their acting thing and get whatever result they were going to get. And those kids tended to be pretty well adjusted and do really well. And then there were moms who kind of did the same thing, but they felt like their kids' acting result was their result and it meant something about them. And they it almost was like they were living their dream through their kid, or they needed their kid to do well to be able to prove to people how great they were, how great as a mom they were. Fill in, I don't know what the exact mindset behind it was, but it literally wasn't about the kid. It was all about the parent, and it was all about their ego, and it was all about their fear, and it was all about their insecurity, it was all about their need to prove. And so what that did is they became a helicopter, like a theater mom, what you think of in terms of the stereotypes, I'm sure, are in TV shows. And so much pressure got put on to the kid, and so much meddling, and so much almost let me do things for you. I'm sure you've seen this in sports if any of you are parents in the sporting world. And what happens is we can see the difference. In one case, there's still support, right? The parent still cares. But the parent is creating a safe container for the kid to go out and essentially flop if they need to, and know it's okay. They can pick themselves back up again, go out and perform again. They're giving them the tools and the resources. The other one, because there's so much pressure coming from the parent, because it's all about I need to feel good because of what you're doing. I need you to get this part. I need you to get this role. I need you to do amazing so I can feel good about myself, so we can look good. What happens is so much pressure gets put into that relationship and into the acting. Ironically, the results are so much harder for the kid to get, or the kid has, so much stress coming up. And the kid also doesn't learn the tools and the resources and have the space to actually really be able to implement and get those results, because there's such a fear of failure. There's so much pressure that they can't screw up. There isn't that safe space to almost be messy that's so necessary for people to actually get results. Use my dad as an example, right? You have to almost feel safe when you're a driver. I've done skid control courses before. Part of what they teach you is not just how to drive fast, but also how to drive and how to handle when you spin out, literally when you spin out, if you're on a wet course, or how to basically navigate when situations on the road happen so that you can course correct and not spin off into a ditch, or if you crash, how to get out of the car and things like that. So kind of same thing here, where it's if there isn't that space for someone to be messy, and that isn't okay, it's really hard for someone then to feel safe enough to run at and get the results they want from whatever you're providing. And again, I know everyone's not here, it's not a coach, so I'm not little different for every business, but it really applies. Look, a theater mom is not a coach, but it's literally the same pattern we're talking about. And we can see the difference in terms of how that feels, what that's really about, who it's really about, and how the results on the back end, how different the results are based on those two different approaches. Courtney says, ooh, good parenting example. Thank you. I get to use my bonus mom experience once in a while. Let me know, y'all, if this is resonating, if you have questions, if you have thoughts. I'm toggling back just to make sure I see your comments. I thank you all for bearing with my amazing tech ability. I was laughing. This is such a side tangent. I had a client call this morning with one of my clients, and I gave them a piece of tech advice. And I always joke with my clients, no one should hire me for tech advice ever. So I was so proud of myself that I had a little tech tip. So that was it for the day. I'm maxed out on tech tips. Everyone here, you should never hire me for for tech advice, you should hire me for mindset support and business support with marketing and sales and messaging, so that you can build a profitable business on your terms, not for anything tech related. So I'm just laughing at the like Zoom Facebook toggle because it's like the easiest thing in the world, but I'm just like, okay. Let me just check my notes here because I know there were other things I wanted to chat around this. And let me see if you have any questions. No, okay, no questions. So did I have another example here? No, we talked through those different examples. So the main thing here, and the reason I wanted to bring this and my thinking, my approach around this and what I coach clients around, and the reason this is so important, and Heather already brought this up, it's kind of twofold, right? On your side as the business owner, as the service provider, when you're really attached to your client's results and you make those yours to worry about, to own, to take on, to carry, again, we can see how easy it is then to take on things that literally, like you literally can't control, and to spin out in your mind. And Heather, I'm not saying you spun out, but I just know because this is a conversation I have just to normalize quite a bit with clients on client calls. And it's so easy to spin out. And then suddenly you're in, you know, the I'm not good enough, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm an imposter, whatever those stories are, instead of how can I show up and serve the person in front of me? What do they need here? What's going on? And so I think it's just really helpful to see, like, it spins you out. And then it also keeps us from actually being able to serve our clients in the best light possible, aside from being able to create that container. This is something I will also say, like, I get this is not the easiest thing in the world. I think it's a lot easier to hook into, to attach to client results, to make them mean a lot, and to almost like want to go in, especially as a coach, to like want to go in and fix things. As a parent too, I'm sure, I mean, my parents, Courtney, like, you tell me if this feels true or not. I think if you see your kid struggling with something, or if you see your kid making a decision where, like, of course you can support them and give them like that messy container and space for it, but there's just such a want to be able to be like, no, I've been there before. Like, I know how you should do this. Let me go in and just do this for you. Like, it's even like when my bonus son brings homework, like sometimes it's like there's such a want to be like, let me just do this for you. And I kid, not kid, but we can see how whenever we would do that for a kid, it literally robs them of the learning experience. It literally robs them of the ability to be able to learn how to do this over and over again for themselves, or to, again, make a mistake in a safe way so they can learn from that mistake. We rob the client of that. And this is, again, coach or not coach, I think this is analogous to so many different service, to just different businesses. But it also, the other thing here is that pressure point, and pressure on yourself, but pressure on your client makes it really hard to get results. So part of the work I do a lot, I have a one-on-one coach, I'm in 2 masterminds, I invest a lot in my mind, and yes, in my mindset and working through things, but a lot of what I'm also investing in and getting support around is continuing to do my own work so that I can show, and just having like safe, healthy places for me to process stuff and let go of stuff, so that I can show up to containers and hold so much space for clients. Because I know the second I put pressure on the container too, I make it really hard for a client to be able to come in and bring whatever they need to the table. And this ties into, I said I was going to share how this ties into the revenue share model. What I like, one of the reasons this is such a big focus for me, and I wanted to bring this conversation here, because I don't think we talk about this enough in the online space, quite honestly. I think we get like, I don't know. I think we need to have more conversations like this, frankly. But one of the things I am really mindful of, and this is even if you're not using a revenue share model, and that's not something I think me and my coach, I don't know very many people, I don't know anyone actually between the two of us, at least in the coaching industry, who have that pricing structure, that pricing model. So even if you're not using that, like this is not about the model, but this is about the thinking behind it, what we're talking about here in terms of client results. Something I am so incredibly mindful of, and making sure I have the space outside of my work to do my own work is making sure there is zero pressure around any client who comes into that to make money so that I can make money on the back end. And I think it's just and the reason I bring that here is it's just a new place the client results piece can come up. And it's a new place where I can imagine if there isn't mindfulness around it, it would be really easy to hook into a client's result and like almost like, well, they need to get those results faster. Like, why aren't they getting more results? And not even from the place of like, oh, that means something about me, but in terms of, and for any of you who didn't hear my live stream moments or know what I'm talking about, my pricing structure in my one-on-one model, now that I'm at capacity, is a base rate plus 10% of new revenue clients generate while we work together, paid monthly, which means I'm basically putting my money where my mouth is. Instead of raising my rates because I'm at capacity and because of my experience, I'm keeping my rates the same. And it's sort of a sliding scale. However, a client, whatever their growth is with me, I will be paid 10% based on their growth together. So it feels really, it feels like we're really partnering in business that way. And in terms of what we're talking about here, my job, just to give an example here and just to show like the walking the talk part and like just to see a different lens for what we're talking about, my job is to literally remember those results are not my responsibility and not to put pressure on those results for a client and to literally detach and remember my job is to be there to support and to hold the space, to hold and to be able to pull out the magic and to create a safe space for my clients to create their own magic and to also have any messiness they need on the way to creating that magic and know the results will take care of themselves. But the second I put pressure on a client needs to get a result so I can feel good about myself or so that I can get a bigger percentage, I know that's the second I'm out of integrity. I'm not holding the space that I need to. And I also know it's the second that that's not going to be supportive to the client. That's going to put so much pressure, right? Then I become the theater mom or the soccer mom who's like needing their kid to do really well. And I mean, we know the kid example here. I think that one landed. We know how damaging that is to the kid on the other side and how it literally stifles their growth. And so I think it's just the reason I want to share. I think it's just helpful to hear through someone outside of your own business, just to hear my thinking around it and to see that example and to see even with something like that, because I think it would be easy to think, and this is also just like for my clients, especially new clients who are going to be with me in that model. I think it's helpful for all of you to hear. I am so committed and so detached from those results. And of course, I will be thrilled. And I've said this to clients before, but I'm thrilled with my clients, whatever. I'm like the parent who's like, whatever you do, I'm so proud of you if you're going out and doing the thing. I mean, I'm proud of my clients anyway, right? But it's like not even about the end result. It's about the process and the journey and who my clients become on the way to getting those results. And so if that's helpful to hear, I think that's a reframe and a lens that might help some of you detach when you're looking at, whatever that service you provide is and that want to get hooked onto the results meaning something about you. I like to think about, absolutely detaching, but thinking about more, can we be more invested on what is the journey? What is the process? What do our clients receive? What is the container? Who do they become in the process? To me, that's really the win, because that's also something that people can take long after you've worked together and continue to get results from outside of that initial interaction or time they've hired you. I'm just seeing if there are comments here. Courtney says, yeah, trying to have a 12-year-old daughter. Oh my gosh, Courtney, I feel for you. I was a 12-year-old daughter and I was a pain in the ass. So my 12-year-old self just feels for you. Heather says, thanks. Yes, I did do that. I gave her a very open solution to help her. It's up to her if she takes advantage of it. But I admit I have a natural instinct to want to tie everything up with a nice bow. Well, Heather, thank you for being so transparent. First, give you so much credit for doing that, and you still get to be human, right? I think that's the thing here. I was chatting with a client about this last week, the week before. This isn't necessarily a trigger, but I think it's the same thing. And I was telling her there's a difference between having a trigger and then what you do with the trigger. Same thing here. Like there's a difference between having something coming up and an instinct or a pattern come up versus what you do with that. We are all human. We are all going to have things come up. I'm going to have, no matter how much work I do around this, that's That's why I have a coach and 2 masterminds. I'm going to have stuff come up. The difference is, what do you do? What do you do with that? And do you bring it into the client service provider relationship? And so that feels really important to say, because you get to be normal. You get to be human. And I think this is a very normal human response. I think all of us, we get triggered. We have patterns. We have things come up. Normal. It's, are you aware of that? And what do you do with that when it comes up? That's the piece that really matters. This is a little bit of a side tangent, but I think it's so applicable here. Something I like to remind my clients is, especially with mindset work, the goal is not to like get rid of the thing. I think sometimes we think like, if I just do enough mindset work, then suddenly whatever my pattern is, whatever my belief is, like, it's just going to magically poof disappear. And I like to remind them, like, some of those might just always be there. Like, I know some of my patterns and my limiting thoughts and beliefs and fears, they just, like, I was telling a client today, they just find new outfits to wear and they just come join the party in a new outfit, and I just have to like notice them. They're probably never going to go away. The difference is, I'm like now really, really quick and fast at noticing them and catching them in that new outfit. And the difference is how I respond when those thought patterns come up. And so I would offer here, Heather, so you can give yourself, a little bit of grace here. Your natural instinct probably is to tie everything up in a nice bow. I think that's if you're heart-centered, I could guess there's probably a couple patterns in there, probably is super normal. I think it's just then, what are you doing with that? When you notice that coming up, that is really where I think the shifts happen for all of us, versus, but I have to admit, like, that's almost like a way we make ourselves wrong. So I see that as really powerful, and as, what's the word I want to look for here? I see that as a lot of awareness that you have, quite honestly. Let me know if that makes sense. All right, y'all, let me know. I'm just checking to see. I shared about the revenue model. Yes. So the last thing there, and this was the piece I will just checking if you have any, toggling back if you do have any questions. But that was really the piece I wanted to close on that feels so important to say is, I think all of our work is continually looking at how can we care about client results? How can we know that that is so important in business, to be able to deliver results and to speak about those results? How can we care about that without making client results mean something about us and taking them on? When you can live in that dichotomy, I think that is a place where, ironically, your clients have the space to get bigger and better results, and the place where you can release the pressure and detach, so you can also create bigger and better results, because you're not looping around everything that can come up when someone isn't getting those results that you want for them. Kind of as a like side note here with the result, and this feels like it's like a part of the same thing here. I think it's also just a helpful thing to remember, and like every client gets to just have the result they want to have. I think there's sometimes, this like goes back to the parenting example. I think it is human tendency sometimes to see potential, to see possibility in people, and to want specific results for someone. As a parent, I'm sure as my parents, like, you can see what is possible for a client and want certain things for them. And I think that can be a beautiful thing. And I think there can be a way where that beautiful thing becomes a pressurized thing, where we start to tell someone what results they should want. And it's a fine line, right? There's a fine line between seeing possibility, holding space for that, creating that space for your kids, like letting them see what's possible and wanting that for them, versus feeling like they need to want those results you want for them. Same with your clients. And I think this is, coaching therapy related for sure, but I really think the same is true for my designers, for my done for you service providers, for my OBMs, for my virtual assistants, for a lawyer, for my CPA, for anyone in the service providing space. I think it's a powerful thing to be able to see what's possible. I tell clients sometimes you can borrow my belief before you have it yourself, and to be able to hold that space before someone can see that. But it's a very different thing to then decide for someone what results they should want. And so I think it's just kind of like a flip, the other side of the coin to this topic we're talking about, and just a really great place for all of us. Like, hey, I'm human. I'm not perfect. Like, this is the work I'm literally investing a fuck ton of money in, so I can continue to be able to do this work and be able to show up this way. I say that just to say, like, it's not like this comes naturally all the time. But I think this is just something we can all focus on that, again, will empower your clients to have that personal responsibility to actually get better results, and for you to have the capacity to grow and scale without all the pressure that can come from taking on other people's stuff. And I think it'll just help you stay out of the imposter syndrome story, because I think sometimes when we take client results to mean something about us personally, I think that's an easy way to get wrapped around imposter syndrome or the not good enough story as well. I check in to see, Heather says, yes, it makes sense. Thank you. My pleasure. So that is what I've got for y'all. If you're watching now or on the replay, if you have any questions, thoughts, reflections, share them with me. I always love questions, always happy to reply to those. I am here for you. So please share those with me. And if this is something you want support with, if you want support around absolutely the mindset and the strategy side of building, growing, and scaling a profitable business you're wildly in love with on your terms, not the way I run my business, the way you want to run your business, I'm the best investment you can make in your business. I really believe that. I think I'm one of the few one-on-one coaches at my level with my level of experience who focus only on one-on-one. Not that there's anything wrong with other business models. Most of my clients don't focus on one-on-one or have other business structures in their business, but it also means I'm literally doing this all day, every day, and see the behind the scenes of so many businesses, which just means when you hire me as a coach, you get a different level of experience, but also just a different behind the scenes look at what really goes into building, growing, scaling a profitable business. So if you want my support, if that's something you're interested in, I will leave a link. Book a call with me. It's completely free, completely pressure free. I promise if you're not a fit, I will lovingly tell you and point you in the direction of someone else amazing that I know. Fit is very, very important with me because I work with my clients very hands-on, and many of my clients stay with me for years and years. So I want to make sure we're a good fit. I do have some openings. I think we still have a spot or two in March and one or two in April, and then we're looking at May. So if you're interested, book a call. I would love to connect with you. Either way, I love you all so much, and I will be back next week with another topic for y'all.